Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X-Calibre number 2, cover dated June 1995. This cover by Ken Lashley. He was the regular artist at the time on the regular title, X-Calibre with an E at the beginning. And the fact of the matter is that he doesn't do the interior art on this particular issue, and it was a surprise to me revisiting this comic to find out who is responsible for the interior art. The cover in any case features the Age of Apocalypse versions of Nightcrawler and Callisto. And would you know what it is that what is in the background there and where the location of this action scene is? Well, it's supposed to be a ship, but I don't know if that's entirely conveyed by the art on the cover. So Ken Lashley at the beginning of his career, the art dynamic but a little bit basic, especially when you look at these background figures lying on the ground here, very vaguely rendered in the artwork. So let's open this one up to the first page, which happens to be an information type page, and I kind of like it because something that I discovered was that I didn't actually pick up the first issue of X-Calibre, and this information page basically catches readers up on what's been going on in the series to that point. So, for example, here we have Kurt Darkholm, guerrilla fighter with the revolutionary band named X-Men, has been dispatched by cell leader Magneto to locate the woman named Destiny. Her talents of psychometric clairvoyancy, literally to touch someone and see their future, will validate the alternate man's claims. That's Bishop. So that's in reference to some things that we've seen already in X-Men Alpha and also in Amazing X-Men number 1. To effect this, Darkholm has begun a dangerous journey along the refugee pipeline from America to Antarctica and the secret mutant refuge of Avalon, where his mother ferries the survivors to its shores. So the title of this particular story is Burn, and the creative team is Warren Ellis, the British writer Warren Ellis, writer Roger Cruz and Renato Arlem, pencils. So two Brazilian artists there, and no Ken Lashley, as I said. And the art in this particular issue, well, I'll talk about when I get to it, but it's not the best from Roger Cruz. And Renato Arlem, apparently this is his first American comics work, and I'll point out a couple of his pages, and they're pretty basic. I don't know if he was quite ready for mainstream at this point, but the comics industry around this time had a voracious appetite for young artists to get the product out there, just as the speculator bubble and boom was about to burst. And you can see there's a lot of inkers here. Charles Mota, Eddie Wagner, Phil Moy, Tom Wegrzyn, and Harry Candelario. Harry Candelario is the most experienced of that set of inkers there, but that again is an indication of maybe a rush, that there was a rush to get this issue out on time for the deadline. Ken Lashley was a slow artist back in the day. Joe Rosas and Digital Chameleon colors, Richard Starkins and Comicraft letters. So let's open to the story proper. We do get a splash page to begin with, and it is a scene of destruction and death, and we learn from the narrative exposition psychometric clairvoyancy, louder than bombs, than the napalm roar of flames eating verdant plains, is the hissing of the superheated gases escaping the hundreds of charred bodies. It was our home, our refuge, humans and mutants living together in peace, no pogroms, no intolerance, just a shared wish for freedom and a shared fear of apocalypse. And this is Destiny, and so she's read this in her touching Switchback, burning in Switchback's future. Avalon is burning. Oh, I can still smell it, Kane, the smell of America. So interesting, here we get a taste of Warren Ellis's style of writing. So some purple prose over here, and I always noted this about Ellis when he came on board the American comics, that he would allow the art to do the talking and would hold back on masses of exposition. And so you can see that on this page. The dialogue is kept to a minimum. and I like it. He's always been good, as I said, at letting the art speak for itself. Now, the scene switches to Manhattan, and here we have the Madri going up against this particular character here, and this guy is basically doing some tough talk here. He's a Native American warrior called Ghost Dance, and he says to the Madri, "I got a prayer here for you, you mother-loving zealots. Be sure you tell it to your false god Apocalypse. It goes like this." So he shoots his gun, and we've got an action page here, and but he is shot from behind, and the Madri has gotten the better of him. The art here, you know, like, it's a good effort. This is Renato Arlem, but it is, as I said earlier, I don't know if he's quite ready for prime time, but that was the case with so many artists back in the early 90s, especially some of the very young hires at Image, and in particular Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios. So I wonder whether this is any better or worse than some of those novice artists at Image and their work. And again, you can see Warren Ellis holding back on dialogue and exposition. And then the scene switches again to a submarine 1,000 miles away in the southwest of the Altered States. The submarine recently loosed from beneath Ghost Dance, carrying 100 refugees along the first stage of the secret route to Avalon, which is in Antarctica. 100 refugees and Kurt Darkholm, who are wondering if they'll ever see the sun again. So in the Age of Apocalypse reality, Nightcrawler knows who his mother is, and so his surname isn't Wagner, it's Darkholm. And so the refugees are choking because the air conditioning unit's blown. There's no filtration or air movement. He's contacting the ship's captain to demand action on that front. And then we see the ship's captain up here, and he says, "This old bucket's been living on borrowed time for years, and someone's just claimed the ticket the stealth arrays took a power surge it couldn't handle. We'll have to break surface, pray we're beyond American detection range." So Nightcrawler says that's insane, because they could be detected by Apocalypse's systems. But the captain says to him in reply, "Navigation's wiped out. If we don't break surface, we're all dead anyway." So this is a dangerous situation. The refugees in the hold are passing out. The submarine surfaces. Captain gets on the comm again. And what happens here is that the cargo bay doors are closed electronically. When the electrical systems blew, that would have been in the previous issue, they locked solid. We're looking for a cutting torch with enough gas in it or a power pack to kickstart the door motors. So they eventually make their way in. And here it is, they're making... Wait a minute. What happens here is that there's a ship. They spot a ship. You see, this is it. This is the problem here. It's the artwork isn't properly establishing what's going on in the story. So we have to get it in the dialogue. There's a ship. And so this guy here says to fire a flare. He could be the captain. Again, it's very difficult to tell whether this guy is this guy over here. They all look the same. And whoever this guy is says, right, now we don't got any choices. So, okay, this is not too bad of an establishing shot here. This page is by Roger Cruz. We've got the ship, we've got the submarine. That looks good. I like that. And then we have the crew from the ship with their blowtorch cutting through the doors of the cargo bay. And who does it turn out to be? Except for Callisto. So she's the skipper of that particular ship. And this captain here thanks her for her help. And she says, "Call me Callisto. We don't do rank on my ship. I'm just glad we carry a full load of gas. You're on the run to Avalon, aren't you?" So the captain of the submarine lies, but Callisto smiles at him and says, "It's okay. I knew your predecessor, Old Trench. Listen, I don't see your boat making it." Now they're cutting through the door here. So What are they going to find? Well, they find everyone dead, or some of the people are dead. Not all of them, but some of them are. And Nightcrawler's gone. And where is he? He's outside on the surface of the submarine. So in the narrative captions, we get an explanation. Kurt Darkholm is a teleporter, we know that. It nearly killed him, waiting until the sub broke water before escaping the cargo bay death trap. He hated leaving the refugees to die in their own stench, but he hadn't the strength to port out even one of them. Okay, so that's the explanation. His instinct was to save them, and the memory of their faces puts cracks in his heart, but it had to be done. He has a greater mission upon which more than 100 souls depend. And besides, back in America, he promised himself he would see his mother again before he died. So now, another switch of scene. It's a little bit difficult to read the narrative exposition up here in the corner of this panel, to remind himself of the days when life was easier and she would watch over him. So an implication that in this reality, Kurt, his upbringing was one in which his mother played a role. So we're on board some kind of ship here. Whose ship is it? There's no explanation, so we got to figure it out through what we see and read on the page in these panels. But this particular cloaked ship is surveilling Callisto's ship and the submarine. And this person here turns to, as it turns out, Danny Moonstar, and says, "Moonstar, will you for pity's sake leave Wade alone? Trailing these morons and waiting a dog's age for them to get moving again is bad enough, without you attempting to play the disappearing graffiti trick with razors and Wade's healing factor." So this is Deadpool in the Age of Apocalypse reality. So it's Damask is the pilot of the ship, and Danny apologizes there. Very different Danny Moonstar from the one familiar in the regular reality. So then she turns back to her computer screen and gets a signal from the Citadel and says, "This is Damask for the Pale Riders," responding on security protocol. And then her interlocutor is Apocalypse, and he asks her to restate her current orders, so we learn what she's up to. Following data gathered from ghost stands by Danny in an undercover role, we are to trail the flight of the dissident Kurt Darkholm along the secret route to Avalon. We are then to return with Avalon's location heretofore unknown for your personal edification and amusement. So Apocalypse responds, computer generated Apocalypse. Darkholm is Magneto's creature, and that one is scheming. The man plans like a spider, hurling his strands of intrigue in all directions. I must burn all edges of his web, therefore, your orders are changed. So Apocalypse himself, a schemer too. And he says to her, "I'm preparing a secondary expedition to follow you. Apprise me of your location at all times. You're to follow the dissident to Avalon, and then you are to kill Avalon." So basically massacre everyone there, humans and mutants alike. And so Danny's still torturing Deadpool, and Damask here basically stabs Danny and kills her. "Don't be mad, Damask, please," she says, and Damask just kills her. And Deadpool is aghast and says, "Why? Why is all the blood, Damask? Why is she not moving?" "Because I just killed her and I loved it." Alright, so these are not nice people at all whatsoever. And then we're back to the ship and the submarine, and the captain returns to his sub and says to Callisto, "Take good care of them, Callisto. If we're lucky, we can restore partial power and head back the way we came." So Callisto smiles and says, "Yeah." And interesting, let's check this out. Right, so her patch is on her left eye on the cover, and here in the interior art, it's on her right eye. So, okay, that's a gaff in the art. And so the sub submerges, But the art, that kind of suggests like it was torpedoed or something. It's a strange rendition of a sub submerging. It doesn't exactly work, but that's not what happened. So Callisto's ship sails away, and they put the people from the sub into the hold, the ballast tank. So she says, this is all, she says to them, it's all for avoiding detection because the ballast tanks are scan shielded. And her crew, no, she's asked them to remove their valuables because that'll help their cover. We're supposed to be a shipwreck recovery vessel, and these will be our alibi in the event of boarding. And so she says to them as they lock them down in the ballast tanks, I know it's cold and wet down there, but it could be worse, right? Try and relax, we'll see you on the other side. And then she says to her crew, okay, everyone topside, I want to be in deeper water before we do the deed. Silent panel as she walks away. So what is this deed indeed? Let's turn the page and find out. Well, first of all, we've got a little scene with Nightcrawler, and we're told it was only instinct that kept him away from rejoining his fellow travelers. It kept him alive this long, his instincts. What did that woman say this was? An unused ballast tank? So something's going wrong. He realizes that something awful is happening. He's trying to open the door, and then they're all sent out, flushed out into the Atlantic. And the narrative captions make plain the water here is too cold to be withstood by unprotected humans in their weakened condition. Kurt knows that even the strongest of them would have died of cold shock within 10 seconds. So Callisto, truly a pirate of the high seas, duplicitous and cold-hearted, she's robbed those people, those refugees en route to Avalon, and murdered them without any qualms of conscience whatsoever. So she and the crew relax. They stop listening to their instincts, and that's a mistake. Let's get past these ads. And here they dock, it seems, at an island, a small island in the Atlantic, in this atrocity zone where Apocalypse has been dumping corpses created by his culling in the American subcontinent. So here's all these corpses in various states of decay, with flies buzzing around them as well. And the ship arrives. Now that's a good shot of the ship, so I'd say some photo reference was used for that. And Callisto says the props are clogged with stiffs. So the propellers, the blades will shatter if we try and pull out of it. We're stuck here until the tides change. Who's manning the helm? Or who was manning the helm? So she's annoyed that they've sailed into this obstacle. And this guy says, me, sort of, and she just shoots him dead. Toe rag, she calls him. Now that's a very British slur. And let's see what happens next. So she gets in touch with other members of her crew and says, don't you dare try and put any revs on those engines without my say-so, because the propellers are clogged with the corpses. And she gets a response, not from one of her crew members, but from Nightcrawler. For what you've done, you're all going to die. So this is, again, an extremely different version of Nightcrawler, a much harder, remorseless version of Nightcrawler than we're used to, the pacifist from the regular reality. And again, what does that have to do with his upbringing by Mystique? So he sets to work on the crew members below decks, and he teleports up on deck and tells them, your time's up, filth. So this is Nightcrawler, 2 swords, and he is really acting like his idol from the regular reality, Errol Flynn in those pirate films. And here Callisto pulls a gun. Notice how her eye patch is shifted to her other eye again. So now it's on her right eye. Okay. And some silent panels from Warren Ellis, again distinctive of him. He will, when the art tells the story, hold back from exposition and dialogue. So she's looking around for Nightcrawler, and then he teleports right in front of her with his blades pointed, one of his blades pointed right at her head. All these people, he says, wanted was a safe haven, and all you could give them was death. Now I'm going to show you what that's like. So she responds, I'm not the only murdering freak in this standoff. And then the denouement. Now it would have been better if this happened on a page turn rather than facing us, but it turns out someone else has got a gun on Callisto, and it's Mystique. So this is our first look at Mystique, Nightcrawler's mother, in the Age of Apocalypse reality. And she says, leave my son alone. Full stop, not an exclamation mark. So interesting that, if it's meaningful, that she's calm and collected, and she's dropped down from this hovering craft of some kind. So there you go, a lot of gritted teeth in this issue. Nightcrawler there and here again. As I said, the artwork merely basically competent, and in some cases not fantastic for telling the story. I would say this was a rush job art-wise, but I think that Warren Ellis does a good job with the exposition and the dialogue. He doesn't overdo it, and so this issue reads fairly quickly. Not too much going on here really, just developing Nightcrawler's character, and we're about to get some exploration of exactly what his relationship is with Mystique as his mother and his upbringing, and maybe how that played into him being this harder edged character in this Age of Apocalypse alternate reality. So I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on X-Calibre number 2. If you did, please like the video on YouTube, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.